stuff. So it's kind of refreshing for me as well. Plus, if you've ever seen one of my presentations, I do not want you to say, oh, this guy is just reusing his old stuff. So if you've been here before, I can guarantee you, I'm still going to show you quite a bit of stuff. So one of the first things that we need to get straight out right out of the gate is that, to me, street photography is all about the humans within the space. Street photography to me is about how humans inhabit a space and how they interact with each other and with the space in wherever they are. So I chose this one photo to begin with because I want you to do an experiment. You look at this photo, which was shot in DC, and with your thumb, block the legs of the person in the upper left quadrant. And you could say, oh, this is kind of a cool abstract artsy photo, but it is not until you realize there's a human in the photo that you can relate to it. That is the importance of having a human in the photo. As human beings, we always are going to be paying attention to other people. When it comes to photography, human beings, we're like Labradors. A lab sees another dog and it gets so excited. The world can be falling apart, but that dog will want to go say hi to the other one. That's exactly how we are. So you might have a majestic landscape, but if I don't have a human in there, I can't relate to it. So I'm saying that because all of the first part of this presentation, I did it all in black and white, mostly because what I'm trying to get across is how the individual or individuals inhabit a space. So this is at the National Gallery. I am taken by shadows. The more I've learned about the profession, the more I realize that it's not so much, for me at least, about the light, but about the shadows. And like I've always said, shadows and light, they do not exist without the other. And it's all about the dichotomy of the binary existence, yin and yang, good and bad, light and dark. Without one, we don't have the other. So a lot of times we make the mistakes of, oh, I wish there were more light. When in reality, what you mean is, whatever light I have, I am gonna make the best possible photo. I want you to look at this photo and realize that the reason why this photo works so well is because of that space between the silhouette of the person and the shadow. When it comes to silhouettes, it's all about the separation and immediate recognition of shapes and forms. If they were touching, photo wouldn't work. Another example, this one is all about creating new angles, new perspectives. This is just a marble bench at a hotel, a very fancy hotel in Boston. I was waiting for an Uber to pick me up and I had a camera on. And this guy happened to walk by, so I ran to the bench and I put it down. I think Sandy has seen me do this. I do this when I teach here in Washington at the end by the Korean Memorial. There's some very shiny black granite, I believe, benches. And every time you see a reflective surface, you have to run for it as a photographer because a reflective surface will offer you a whole new world of possibilities. Now this one, it's a photo that always does very well. People love it. It's very much balanced, but I want you to think in terms of how the human, or the humans in this case, inhabit the space. The other thing that makes this photo work so well is the fact that it captures a couple of decisive moments. When it comes to photography, there is a hierarchy of what makes a photo a good photo or a great photo. There's technique, there's the lensing, all the different things that you can try to make a photo better. But the king within the hierarchy of different things that make your photo good are decisive moments. If you have a great decisive moment within the frame, this decisive moment can carry the photo. In this case, the decisive moments here are the guy in the background running and the woman in the foreground walking. And if you notice, her heel is about to strike the ground, which is usually the perfect telltale of a decisive moment. And this goes all the way back to Henri Cartier-Bresson and the famous photo of the guy about to break the surface of the water in a puddle. So that's what the decisive moment is, capturing that essence of a moment in one frame. Also, this whole thing is about seeing beyond the obvious. We see a guy leaning against a wall and we might think there might not be a photo there. All it took for this photo to work was for me to get a little bit higher and make sure that his head was not touching the background. So now he lives in a clean background, clean environment, thus he stands out.
Sure.
So somebody has their microphone on, you might want to turn it off because we can hear everything you're saying. Not that there's anything wrong with that, I'm just saying. So anyhow, so the photo works because we have separation of elements. We can relate to this, the body language, the way he's leaning against it, against the wall. I think if you've ever seen one of my presentations, I kind of bring this photo up quite a bit because it serves for so many different purposes. This was shot while I was on assignment for the Globe during the summer at the Rose Kennedy Parkway, which is where the highway used to be, right smack in the middle of Boston. And on this very hot day of summer, they told us specifically, do not make photos of people in water. We're sick of seeing photos of people in water. You give me those kind of instructions, and that is pretty much a challenge to me. So I told myself, okay, they don't want this kind of photo. So I am gonna go make a photo that is gonna be so extraordinary, they're gonna have to use it. Voila, lo and behold, that was the cover of that section the next day. This photo, it's a very interesting photo. This was shot in Paris. And Paris, believe it or not, has very stringent laws when it comes to the identity of people in photos. Like, it really, Cartier-Bresson would be spinning on his grave if he were to know the kind of laws they have passed. But this man, he was walking towards me, and I just instinctually picked up the camera, and I made a couple of frames of him, and he was very upset at me. You know, I usually don't take it personal. I'll just raise my hands and I kind of back away. And it's not my style of photos, but I found him to be such an interesting character that he was worthy of me picking up my camera. And a lot of times that's all it takes. When somebody challenges the fact that I've taken a photo, I usually approach them and show them the photo, and I say, look, I took your photo because I thought you were worthy of a photo. And I usually offer it to them, and I give them my card. And if I do give someone my business card and I promise them a photo, I tell them, if you write to me and you tell me you are the guy with the hat and whatever, I will get you the photo. And I always do that, because that's just good mojo. That's just bad karma if you promise that you don't deliver. So I'm a true believer that if you're gonna promise something to someone, you gotta deliver. This is just about, because I love reflections. This is right here in Old Town. Believe it or not, there are 2 stores, I think they're owned by the same people, separated by a couple of different businesses where they sell wigs in right smack in the middle of Old Town Alexandria. That's very expensive real estate. Yes, these 2 people own 2 stores. I mean, the one person owns 2 stores. Anyhow, I love it because the mannequins just sit there, and all you got to do is you lean against the reflective surface and you wait, and voila, something usually comes in and fills the frame. This is in Boston. This is, whenever you drove around in Boston on assignment, you were always paying attention to the light, because as photographers, we are slaves to light. However, our goal should be that of becoming masters of light, meaning that doesn't really matter what kind of light is in front of you. You have to make, as a photojournalist, I had to make a photo no matter what. Of course, if you happen to notice such beautiful light, like this might be the Hancock Tower, the Prudential area in Back Bay area of Boston. And I would notice that during the fall, early fall, the light would bounce off this building and create this beautiful shadow. So one day I needed to make a photo and went back, and perfect. But again, the reason why this photo works so well is because look at the space between his shoulders and the 2 slits of dark in the background. It is about immediate shape recognition, and it is about the fact that you immediately can tell, oh, okay, this is a person walking. And also that space between his foot and the ground, it tells you about the decisive moment. Same thing, I noticed good light, made it a point, went back to get it, and I had seen how this very modern building reflected the light as it was waning down during like 2 o'clock actually in winter in Boston. And it was just a matter of waiting. So this is what you would call a stakeout situation, where you find great light and then you just wait it out for something or someone to come by and help you with the light. And that guy just happened to have his face right in the place where the light was sitting. Thus the photo works. This photo is dissing. Like, I cannot look at this too much because it starts messing with my eyes, but this is one of my favorite spots to shoot. It's behind the Lincoln Memorial. It's some steps that go to nowhere. I forget the name of them, but they're behind the Lincoln Memorial. Nowadays, people just go up and down for nothing, or but they actually use it for working out. I read historically, they were designed for when dignitaries came to visit Washington, they could actually just get off the Potomac and the steps would end up at the Potomac. But if you were to go there now, there's an actual road down below because they filled that whole area. So they really are steps to nowhere. But from a photography point of view, is an amazing place that when the light is right, you get this kind of stuff. And just to prove the point, I just shot it yesterday. Yesterday morning, I was photographing. I owe Nikon Latin America. I owe him a video of a promo video for the Z7. I'm a social media influencer for Latin America for the mirrorless Z7. So I went yesterday morning to photograph the monuments. And on the way back to the car, I saw this guy's working out, and I'm like, that's perfect. And just in case you're wondering about why that background is so dark, I am not a post-production guy. I come from a world of photojournalism where you do basic stuff. I actually shoot this dark. I'm always exposing for the highlights, so everything else kind of falls dark, and only whatever is being hit by the light comes up, pops up. So I really don't do much to the photos. This is just the way I shoot it. And again, look at this photo. You might think it's an interesting graphic image, but you block with your thumb those two people going up and down, and the photo is nowhere near as interesting. So again, once more, to me, street photography is about how human beings occupy a space. Same principle. This is just fall. I don't recall where. It might have been Massachusetts. It's some college, but this is just a fall day, kind of a murky day. The sun would hit every once in a while, and all you do here is you expose for the highlights, and everything just kind of becomes black, and whatever is bright, it gets hit by the light. That's it. But again, look at it. This photo works because you got a human in it. Same principle. This is the first time I actually use this photo in black and white. This is in Dublin. This is an amazing place to photograph. I love the city of Dublin. Ireland in general is a magnificent place. People are very friendly, and there are photos everywhere. And but the space in itself got all these graphic lines, all these things that your eye keeps bouncing around. But what the visual anchor is the one human within the frame. Without the human, the photo doesn't work. So you have to look at a scene, and you have to go beyond what's there. Everybody that walks by might see something, but you as a photographer, you have a better aesthetic balance and a better understanding of what works and what doesn't work. So sometimes it's just a matter of trying to look beyond the obvious. This is one that on purpose, I put the person in the background out of focus. Sometimes I do that because at times I don't really care about the face of the person I care about the human shape, because I'm always trying to put humans into my photos. So I have this is steps going up to Boston City Hall from Faneuil Hall. And I had noticed how at the end of the day, the backlight would create this beautiful sort of rim light, highlight the handrails. So again, stakeout situation. You just stand there and you wait for someone to come in. Again, serendipity smile upon me because the guy's front foot is perfectly aligned with that railing on that side. So I always say that serendipity, she's my muse, she's my lover, and she's always with me. I always expect great things to happen when I'm out with my cameras. This photo, it's one of those once in a lifetime photos. This photo might be easily 25 years old. I made it at the very beginning of my career. When I made it, I didn't even know what I was looking at. Everybody loved it, and I didn't understand why. But you know, there's so much in it. There's the repetition of body shapes, the repetition of posture, the fact that you can tell these people are together, and the fact that they're both holding a purse and a briefcase in the very same way. And then to throw it all, you have the little squirrel in the background. That just makes the photo extraordinary. And this is one of my favorite techniques to do, which is to create shadows in the middle of the day. All you do is you find a shady area, you expose for the highlights, you back yourself into the shadows, and you wait for people to walk by. So this is what you would also call a stakeout situation. I noticed how the people going by would create interesting shadows. But what you have to remember is that your camera has limitations. And those limitations are not obstacles, but instead they are new photographic tools that you need to understand in order to add to your photographic toolbox or kit. What does that mean? That when you are there looking at this, the human eye will see all the gradients of light. You will be able to see from the darkest, from the midpoints, all the way to the bright. So you don't see silhouettes, but the cameras, I don't care what camera you have, unless you're an HDR, which I think is not natural. The camera, there's no way it can see all the different gradients of light. So you have to embrace that. So instead of fighting it, you embrace it. So you expose for the highlights and voila. By the way, the other thing that you're seeing here, if you haven't noticed, is that I tend to shoot a lot from the bottom up because the cleanest possible background you can find, especially in an urban environment, is the sky. So I'm always looking for clean backgrounds. Another one from the Rose Kennedy Parkway area. And again, what makes this photo extraordinary is, I mean, cool silhouettes, backlit water, pregnant woman enjoying that, you know, cooling off in the water. But I want you to take your thumb and put it right on her butt. And imagine if that kid running away, if his head would be touching her butt, then you wouldn't have separation of shapes. So the brain will look at it as a mess. What you want is people to look, recognize, and say, oh, that's cool. And then they can move on. But at least they took the time to do that. If you present your photos the same way that anybody can see it with their eyes, and you photograph it the same way at eye level, nothing extraordinary, you don't take the time to compose. Basically what you're doing is you are blinking with your camera. How many times a day do you think we blink? I heard it's thousands of times. I have a point to say on that. Do you remember every time you blink? No, because we would go crazy. It's the same principle. Our brains are not designed to pay attention to mundane information that keeps repeating itself. When you repeat what's out there and you don't compose, you don't take the time to actually look for the photo and you show it to someone, you're basically boring the living daylights out of the person. So you gotta be careful with that. Again, it's all about people within the environment. I was doing a story for the Globe, how Harlem had become kind of a tourist attraction. It had like a new renaissance of tourism. And I was just walking around, which is, you know, it's a perfect assignment for me. Send me to a place and let me loose. And all I do is I watch, observe, and document. But the photo works really well because of the lines, because of the cornrows and the different hairstyles. And it's kind of a funny, cool photo. Now we're going indoors. I want you to understand that street photography is not only outdoors. Wherever people are occupying a space and they're relating to that space and with each other, you have street photography. You may call it what you may, but it is the same, the principle. To me, there is no difference between shooting indoors or outdoors when it comes to photographing people. And to me, there is no difference between street photography and travel photography. What do I mean by that? That if you go to Cuba and you make a beautiful photo in a neighborhood and you come back here, that photo you might call travel. However, a photographer in Cuba makes the exact same photo, which is outside of his house. What is that for him? That is street photography. So to me, we're talking semantics. A good photo is a good photo. Anyhow, this photo proves the point of reflections. Once more, this is just a counter at a building I was waiting to go into, and I saw it and I photographed it with my phone. You don't really need fancy cameras to get good photos. Again, simple composition. This is the National Art Gallery. This is a great stakeout position. You just wait for someone to break the line and you've got a great photo. Inside the galleries, I love this painting, and it was only a matter of waiting for the right shape or silhouette to come into the frame. So again, this is a stakeout situation. And you know, I wouldn't call myself a patient person, but when it comes to finding the right photo, all of a sudden I have patience in spades. This is an art installation that goes from the West Building to the East Building, the National Gallery. The reason why I have so many photos at the gallery is because during the winter months, I actually teach street photography inside the galleries, and it's a riot. There's a lot to photograph there, and there's a ton of people, and we have a lot of fun there.
Esdras, I want to interrupt you just quickly. We've got a couple of questions that relate to how you're shooting. Are you shooting in burst mode? Or are you, waiting like that fountain scene? Are you waiting for the moment and just taking, a few shots, or is it burst?
If you ever spend any time with me, what you're gonna hear is, I am not, but you might think, oh, he's just pressing the shutter and it's called spraying and praying. No, my motto when I shoot is keep moving, keep shooting, keep adjusting. Keep moving, keep shooting, keep adjusting. So you might actually hear 4 frames go in a row, but in reality, I did micro adjustments until I get the right composition. Now, why is it important to photograph in continuous mode and continuous high mode when you're dealing with people? Because I want you to look at this. How long did that take? How many photos could you have gotten if you're doing click, click? You will get all confused if you start waiting. When it comes to human beings, we move fast. If 2 people come to hug, the photo really is right before they touch. At the moment they touch, it's a mess. And then you have to pick one person or the other, you have to go around. So when it comes to photographing people, the difference between a good photo and a great photo is just fractions of a second. So my recommendation is whenever you're looking at people, be ready to shoot a ton. Be ready to go continuous mode, but do not just press the shutter and get the same shot. If you keep moving, keep shooting, and keep adjusting. That work? Good answer?
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Same thing at the National Art Gallery. They keep switching the installation. So this one about some metallic plain looking thing. And again, it is the 2 people in the photo that make the photo. Graphically, it's a very interesting photo. But to me, what makes it is the people in that space. By the way, again, a stakeout situation. I saw the guy down below standing there. I thought he was a good photo, but then out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the person on the right coming my way. And I just looked through and I waited. I actually have a tendency, when I shoot, I do not close the other eye. Even though I'm right-handed, I shoot through my left eye. And my right eye has become recessive when it comes to information. I can have both eyes open and I wouldn't even pay attention to what's going on out of the right eye, but but the peripheral motion, I will always be aware of that. So I don't close my eyes when I shoot. This is indoors. I think this was shot in Houston, some sort of event that I was covering. But when you look at people, you gotta pay attention to their gestures, their body language. I noticed, I saw her from afar. This was a conference for young women. So there were a ton of young women sitting down, talking on their phones, talking to each other. But I saw her from afar and I thought her to be super interesting. So I got myself lower. I found a chair across from her and she's not reacting to me. If you were to blow up this photo, she's actually just making a lot of faces. By the way, I love very sophisticated compositions. By that, I mean, there are layers of information. You know that she's not sitting there alone with those 3 other women, but there's a ton of other people around. So this is one way of looking at this photo and the photo still works. This is another way of the exact same photo. And it's a matter of choice. I like the other one better, but some people might think, okay, the photo lives here. And that's fine. I did that with these 2 photos. Same principle. This is just, I like the fact that, everybody's on their own little world. The girl leaning forward, she's bored out of her mind. The 2 on the right are somewhat interested. The woman in the back, she already made all the purchases she was going to make. She's ready to go. And the tall guy next to her, his head is just like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? So to me, this is a great photo because it's full of storytelling moments. But one could say that they are the photo. So my point to get across is a good editor will show you where the photo lives sometimes, but you as a photographer at the end, if you can actually rationalize and explain why you're keeping a frame to be this way or another, you basically are the god of your creation. You get to decide. So we're out of the black and whites, and now we're going to start in a more colorful world. This actually shot yesterday, and I was ambivalent about showing you this photo because one of the things that I'm always harking about is separation. And in a perfect world, the girl on the right, her head wouldn't be inside the shadow of the monument. But I happen to like the duck in between them. So I said, oh, what the heck, let me just do it. So again, to me, street photography is all about how people occupy the space in which they are, and then how you put yourself around them and how you frame it. And by the way, this whole sequence is about the national monuments because I wanted you to see something that is familiar. And there's a couple of photos there I shot when I was in Sandy. I like going there early in the morning. This place is amazing. I love all the tiny people in the photos. And the light changes from days to beautiful sunrises and sunsets like this. This I shot the day that Sandy was with me, I believe. This is just a chain, a couple of poles and a chain that tells people do not step on the grass. Think about it. How many times, how many people do you think go by and never ever stop and look at that chain? However, I, as a photographer, that I'm always looking for interesting ways of presenting the mundane to going beyond the obvious, I'm always very keen on paying attention to stuff like that. So I made it a point to shoot this photo this way. Now, nowadays, because I have now the little mirrorless, the C7 that has a LCD that pops back, I would actually do it that way. However, when I'm shooting with my DSLRs, I am so familiar with my big D5s and D4s that just by the way I move my hand, I know what the camera is seeing. So I can actually put the camera in places where I don't need to go. I don't need to be in my belly in order to get the shot. I actually can move the camera and I know exactly what's going to happen. Same principle. I didn't go down in my belly to get it. I have to say, I sort of wanted to get this shot, but I thought it would take me a lot longer to get the separation that I wanted, but I just got lucky, put the camera down below. I always keep as many points active in my camera, focal points, and then I pre-pick the one. So because I know that frame so well, I pick, let's say, upper right quadrant, right above the midline, because I know when I put the camera down and I press a shutter lightly, I will feel the lens trying to find a focal point. Once it grabs it, because I'm familiar with that, I kind of know what's actually it's looking. So you don't need to see every single frame that you make. You just need to be aware and mindful and know the equipment that you're using to the point that you might not have to look through the viewfinder or through an LCD screen. Sometimes you just get lucky. On this day, I was teaching a class out there, and there was a mom trying to photograph her daughter, and she was doing it wrong, the mom. So I didn't say anything. I told everybody, look, what's going on here. You just got to get lower, because otherwise all she's going to get in that background is the trees, and it's going to make it messy. So we shot to our heart's content while the daughter was posing. And then when we were done, I asked the people, are you done? And they're like, yeah. So I walked up to the mom and I said, ma'am, this is how you got to do it. And I showed her, and then she was able to basically replicate the same. But I still gave her my card. And I told her if she were to write to me, I would send her the photo. I think she did, and I did send her the photo. Someday that it was, I forget the name of when all the motorcycles come to DC. They're not going to do it anymore because they were getting charged too much money. So the last year they did it, so people come out with flags, and they dress their babies in flag motifs. Can't go wrong with that kind of stuff. I just wanted to prove the point that on that day is a lot of flags, and you have to pay attention. Also, this photo, as simplistic as it might seem, realize the background is clean, and it is shot in a three-dimensional way. What does that mean? That photography and your cameras, well, let's say photography as a medium is an imperfect two-dimensional medium that we use to document a three-dimensional world. What does that mean? That photos only exist in height and width. That's it. It's a flat thing. So if you park yourself parallel to your subject matter, you basically have flattened the scene. So just by me standing to the side, I've created a bit of depth, and it tells you that, oh, okay, that was some sort of railing or fence that they were sitting on, and there's three-dimensionality. So keep that in mind. As a matter of fact, the perfect example of how common this mistake is, let's say there's three people talking, and you're going by and they say, would you please take our photo? And they hand you a phone. What do people do? The first thing they do is they get shoulder to shoulder. That is the worst possible thing they can do, because they basically just took a three-dimensional world and they flattened it. And so just by doing that, they bored the viewer to this photo from then to kingdom come. So keep that in mind. Always shooting at angles, it's a great thing. I'm not saying you have to do it 100% all the time, but it's a good thing to keep in the back of your mind.
Yes.
You have a question, go ahead.
One good question that's coming up. What is the focal length that you use most frequently?
So I always have two cameras on me. One will have a telephoto, that's a 70-200 2.8. And on the other one, I will have, if I'm in my DSLR, it will be my 17-35 2.8. If I'm in my mirrorless, it's my 14-30 4.0. It feels, that 4.0 and that wide lens feels just like the other one. That's why I picked that lens when they asked me what lens I wanted. So, and you have to keep in mind, the reason why I have two cameras is because things happen nearby and things happen afar. You do not want to waste time having to switch lenses. Having said that, nowadays there are amazing cameras out there that have a ranges that go from 24 millimeters all the way to 300. Hey, if you have that one and the optics are good, more power to you. More power to you. I also keep a 1.4 teleconverter in my bag because sometimes, you know, I do want to stack it up a little bit more, or I can't get it close enough to a scene. But this guy is part of the honor flights. It's something I think American Airlines sponsors, where they bring Vietnam vets and World War II, and they bring them to Washington to the monuments. So during the summer, well, not this summer, but on past summers, you would see them, and they're very hard to photograph because they put all these lanyards around their necks with the bright badges that have their name and what group they're in, and then there's usually somebody pushing them, and they're wearing a green bright vest, so it's hell to photograph. So whenever you can find great light, great subject, and an exquisite moment, this is the kind of moment this is what I call a private moment out in the open. He was actually looking at the Vietnam, the three soldiers. I forget the name of the three soldiers statue, and he was just pensive. You know, so I happened to have caught him in a pensive moment, and then I lowered my camera and I was waiting to make eye contact with him. If we would have made eye contact, I would have gone up to him, introduced myself, we would have chit-chatted, I would have given him my card, and I would have given him the photo. But he never did. He was so focused on that, and I didn't think I had the right to bother him. So I didn't. Again, that is my favorite thing to do, to give you shadows in the middle of the day. And this is going towards from the Vietnam or the Lincoln to the Korean. It's in the general vicinity. And there's a lot of foliage. And when there's a lot of foliage on the trees, it creates a shadow in the middle of that pathway. So it's only a matter of waiting for people to go there. You expose for the highlights. And if you get lucky enough, you get enough separation on those people in the shadow area that you create an interesting layered photo. You know, you can't go out there and not photograph a wall. So I have so many photos of this wall, and I'm always working the reflection. And normally I would have photographed this photo from being on my knees, because I know it normally would have cleaned the background even better. But in this case, there was one of the volunteers doing when the etching of a name, which they volunteer at the time, and they do it for people, they etch, so not everybody is messing with a wall at once. So even in a situation like this, it is an actual moment happening. The kid is touching the wall, pointing to a specific name. That moment is going to disappear, but you still have to make a decision. How do I clean the background to the best possible of my abilities? Like I said, my default is going low, but I immediately noticed the guy in the back, and I knew that if I were to go low, he would have a guy coming out of his head, and that's just a bad photo, bad composition. Nobody wants to see that. One of the most interesting things out there is that people actually leave medals. I've actually photographed a couple of Purple Hearts. So people leave, it's a very, very emotional, it's full of very heavy feelings at times. And I swear to God, sometimes you can walk in here and you can feel it. And I'm extremely respectful when I photograph there. And I tell the people, I explain, look, you have to keep your distance. If somebody's crying, if you want to photograph them, I would advise you to do with a telephoto lens. Please do not get in the way. Don't ever interfere. You know, we're lucky to be witnessing this kind of things. So I'm a true believer that you always have to pay attention to not infringing upon other people's, I wouldn't say privacy, because in reality, if you're out in the open, you have no expectation of privacy. So you could be photographed. But there's a certain morality to the fact that if somebody is crying very profoundly, and they're leaning on the wall, you better, if you want that photo, you better make it from afar. There's no sense of harassing the person and going right up there with a wide angle lens. It's really, that's not something I do. That's not something I do. And this is just me. I was testing a little walk around camera that I used to have. And so I went to this memorial, And again, it's about people in that environment. To me, this photo wouldn't work. I don't care how pretty the light is unless there were the people on the left-hand side. And by the way, there's an actual bona fide decisive moment. The kid is actually throwing his bottle, his bottle up, and I happen to have caught it in the right moment. And this is, I think this is the last one of the memorial area. This is what I was telling you. This is benches that are extremely shiny. You would see a lot of my work is extremely dark, extremely contrasty. I think it's what you call chiaroscuro, which is a style of painting, which is extremes, and it comes from right before the Impressionists, Europe. It has to do with the light coming into place. I love that contrasty thing. But that doesn't mean that I'm not completely against overexposing. When you're dealing with nasty middle of the day light and it is coming through the trees, that is called dappled light. That is the worst possible light to deal with. And there are only two ways that you can deal with it. You can close the aperture and make it darker. That never quite works. So the other way is you actually overexpose. And what you get is this ethereal look to the photos. Do we have any questions? Because I think I'm explaining a lot on all these photos, and we might end up short in time. But I don't mind if you ask questions. Are we good?
Yes. Hang on. Oh, so compared to jurisdictions like France, for example, there are not legal issues related to photographing people. If one is not a journalist, etc., is that true?
No, there are actually laws in the book in France that if you take a street scene and that photo gets published, you can get into trouble if one of those people says, "I didn't give you my permission to do that." It's horrendous. It happened like 5-6 years ago. Those new laws came into the books, and we journalists were appalled by it. So yeah, just have to be careful. It also depends on what are you going to use the photos for. Like I am continuously photographing, shooting, and a lot of what I do, I don't do it for any other purpose other than the fact that I love photography and I love photographing. And a lot of the photos that I do, I end up using them for teaching purposes. So it's not like I'm going to make a huge poster of the Eiffel Tower where you can see the people on the bottom and somebody would be recognizable. But they could, in theory, come back and say, "I didn't give you permission, therefore, if you're selling this poster of the Eiffel Tower and I am at the bottom, I get some money out of that. Otherwise, I'm gonna level up a case against you." So yeah. So you have to advise yourself wherever you are, and you also have to keep in mind, what am I gonna use the photo for?
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. So now we're going into a wonderful world of photographing children. A lot of my demographics that I teach are retirees, because you have the time to go hang out with me and you have the money to spend in gear and classes and alike. So I know that you have a lot of grandchildren. And I can tell you this, and take this to the bank. The worst thing that you can do to a child is to teach him how to say, "Cheese, I'm taking your photo, stop, cheese." That is the worst thing that you can do, because there's nothing better than being able to capture a child, the essence of a child being a child. The moment you stop that and you make him pose, you have ruined that moment. When I used to work for the Globe and I used to go photograph events outdoors, like festivals along the Charles River in the Esplanade, a lot of times I would find kids dressed interestingly or doing interesting stuff. You cannot hide that I was a professional, 2 cameras, I have the badge. I usually make eye contact with the adults and they kind of know what I'm doing. I'm not some sort of freak photographing little kids just for the heck of it. And but a lot of parents would say, hey, look at the photographer, he's taking your photo. I literally would just look at the parents, shake my head and turn around and walk away. So don't ever do that. Do not ever do that, because a child, the beauty of a child is they don't care about anything. They have this much of an attention span. And the beauty of it is, even when they pay attention to you, they're like, "Okay, I'm bored." That's it. So let a child be and photograph them naturally. Do not pose them. So all these photos you're going to see, this is all natural. This is just one day near the Pentagon. My wife and I went to an outdoor cafe, and there was this little rambunctious girl jumping around. Her parents just let her go, and she climbed the street. And I'm looking at the parents, and I'm looking at the girl, and the girl kept climbing up. And I'm looking at the parents, and the parents, they don't care. And I kept shooting. And I just told my wife, I hope this doesn't turn into a spot news event that the child fell from above and broke something. But no, this kid was a beautiful little monkey. So beautiful photos. And I went to those parents and I gave them a business card and I said, and I showed them the photo. I'm like, your kid is amazing. Look at this photo. And they loved it. And I said, here, write to me and I'll send it to you. They never did. So they never got this photo. So go figure. At the monuments, just school group was out there and I saw this kid. This might have been the very same day I got the photo of the vet looking at that was very somber at the good light. It was just a beautiful light day, and when it's like that, I'm always looking at the way the light hits. And dark skin, when certain light hits it, it's just drop dead gorgeous. Ireland, again, kids. This kid in the middle, she's almost kind of looking my way, but they're still in their own little world. So I loved all the red in the photo, and then to me, having the seagull in the background is just an add-on. Those kind of things that add to the content of a photo and make you look a little bit longer to a photo is what I like to call visual gifts, is their afterthoughts. You think the photo, it's about the two little girls, but then you realize the mom is looking at them. Then you realize all 3 feet are off the ground, caught in mid-step. And then you're, oh, how cool, look at all that red in that photo. And then when you think you're done, oh, is that a seagull in the background? Look at all that time that your brain took to see all the elements in the photo. Your goal as a photographer is to make people spend the most amount of time looking at your photos. The worst thing that can happen to your photos once you show them to someone is for them to ignore them. The best thing that can happen to you when you're making photos, when you have a camera in your hand, a photographic device, is for people to ignore you. So you want to be ignored when you're making the photos. You don't want your photos to be ignored. Keep that in mind. This kid right here, he's laughing because his friend just went into the porta potty and he locked him in. So I was watching the whole thing, and I have the sequence, but you know, as a one photo, it still kind of works. So that's the beauty of kids. You know, they give it all. It's all feeling, all body language. So you gotta love them. I just posted this photo in Instagram, and it's one of my favorites. Cuba. Cuba's full of pastel colors. If you gotta go to Cuba, that's all I gotta say. I've been there 44 times, and I cannot wait to go back. It's always new things for me to photograph there. But again, the beauty of this is this kid is in midair. Look at the clean background. Look at the balance of colors. The mural, the cutouts on the wall. I don't know if that's a cutout or an actual painting. It has blue and white and red. The kid is wearing red and white. And then you have the blue on the windows. So there are only so many colors in this photo, which is an afterthought gift, visual gift. You can look at this photo. Oh, that's kind of cool. The kid is in midair. But if you actually take the time to look at it, then you can realize that there's so many things going on as far as color balance, the balance of the two elements within the frame. The fact that I purposely left a vertical pipe on the right-hand side because you have that vertical tree on the other side. So there are patterns of 2, 2, 2, and 2. I'm not saying at the moment that I'm taking the photo, I make those calculations consciously, but I can tell you that subconsciously, your brain is doing all the calculations. A lot of times that I know that there's something there and I am photographing it, and it's not until I see the photo, I'm like, oh, that's what I was looking. Your brain will actually go on overdrive and do it for you. You just gotta continuously practice. I have no idea why this kid was on top of the ice cream little thing cart, but this is a photo full of information. It's full of layers of information. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things going. Everybody within this frame is in their own little world. The girl on the left, I was that close to her because I wanted you to feel like you were part of the scene. When you stay away from your subjects, you're actually just basically blinking with the camera, with the photographic device. You haven't done anything that shows that you see better than the average person. I always tell people, I get paid because I see better than the average person. I don't care if I am facing 50 other professionals. When the moment I get to an assignment, in my mind, I'm thinking, how can I outsee all of these people? How can I show this in a way nobody else here is seeing it? Sometimes that doesn't happen, but I'm always looking for those new angles, new perspectives, new things that somebody else might not have noticed. If you ever heard any of my presentations, you know that I love this photo because I'm emotionally attached to a sequence of photos here. I am way overdue for a book. I spent 2.5 years photographing this one little neighborhood in Denver called Elyria. It's a place where I actually learned about light learn about moments, learn about observing, learn about cleaning the backgrounds. And the beauty of it, it is the proverbial assignment that I gave myself because nobody else would give it to me. So editors at some point usually tell new photographers, give yourself the assignment you want somebody else to give you. That's the best way to do it. You know, do something because you love doing it, not because there's a motive behind it or anything like that. To me, this is pure joy de vivre, just enjoying life, photographing and learning. This, you know, this is a beautiful shot. It's moment capture in time. The kid in the right was dressed as Batman. He lost his cape. He's looking back, caught in mid-stride. The other kid is looking down. You know, it's the kind of stuff you cannot actually plan for. You get lucky enough, serendipity smiles upon you, and you get that kind of stuff. This photo, now that I see it, I need to darken the left column because there's a lot of light there and the eyes go there. But, you know, it's great because you have that line of movement going. It's old photo. I shot it in 1994, the first time I went to Cuba. So these are all adults now. But again, the beauty of kids are kids, even though they're you know, they're being hams, like they're kind of looking back at me sometimes after they land and stuff. It was, you know, it was a good moment. And the worst thing you can do is to tell them to stop. Just let them be. Let children be. These are a little bit older, but they're teenagers. You know, they're visiting a museum. I do not remember what Caribbean island this was in. I don't remember, but it was somewhere in the Caribbean. And, you know, just watching behavior, body language, the way people interact with their space and with each other tells a story. This is at the monuments. Everybody goes into the chamber inside the Lincoln Memorial, and they look at Lincoln and they take photos of Lincoln, but very few people step back and look at the way the light comes in from the outside, because there are the big columns blocking the light. What's happening inside is it's a beautiful feathered light, the kind of light that you want to be able to recreate in a studio. So as a matter of fact, I got into trouble once with the park rangers in there because, first of all, they don't like for you to take groups in there. So I tell people you cannot go that way, and they'll meet you outside. But when I go there, I don't photograph the Lincoln itself. I photograph the faces and the way that people's faces get lit up. I love that. I love that. This photo is here because one of the things that I teach is when you think you have a great photo in front of you, you got to make it a point to stop. Well, make that photo first, then turn around to see what's behind you. On this day, it was kind of a cool, just gloomy, winterish, early winter day in Boston. And I was supposed to get something colorful to break the winter blues. And there was somebody crossing the street that had bright colors, and I got that photo. And then I remember my own advice, and I turned around, and, you know, there was that little moment happening between a mom and a little girl eating ice cream. I think she was experiencing brain freeze for the first time. This is one of those tourist guides in Boston. But what I want you to pay attention to is how close I am to these people. I am actually pretty much trying to be eye level with the kids, and I am not stepping back. Because if you step back, all you have done is you are basically duplicating what anybody else walking by could see with their eyes. What have you done to earn the right to spend people's time looking at your photos? Keep that in mind. Don't waste people's time.
Esdras?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I've got some really good questions that I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one is, and I've seen this a couple of times, questions about, you know, parents today are really protective. How do you break through that?
Okay. So first of all, when I see a child or children doing something out of the ordinary, I will photograph it right away. But then I will immediately stop, look around, and look for the adults. If there's an adult related to those kids, they usually are paying attention to the kids and what's going on around. And so I immediately make a beeline for them. In all my years of photographing street stuff for papers, assignments, only once did I actually get a parent that he actually threatened the paper with a lawsuit because I happened to have photographed, it was a fall day, and it was your quintessential image of the fall of two kids had piled up a bunch of leaves, and they were jumping on the leaves, and they were throwing them up, and they were backlit, and there were tow-headed kids, blonde kids, laughing. The photos were drop dead gorgeous. And but you cannot use a photo like that without getting the name. So I had to go knock on the door because you cannot just get the name from the kids. You gotta get it from the adults. So I went and knocked on the door, and the parent said, "What did you do?" I'm like, "I photographed your kids." "Why would you do that?" I'm like, "I saw them as I was driving by. At that time I was with the Globe." And he's like, "No, no, no, you cannot do that." And I'm like, "Okay." I already knew I couldn't use the photos because I didn't have the kids' names. And he actually called, even after I told him that I wasn't going to use the photo, he called the paper and he said, "I am a lawyer, and if you're a photographer, you guys use a photo, I am going to sue you." I don't know. I don't know what that was about, but for the majority of time, parents just want to know, what the heck are you doing photographing my child? So do not interrupt what a child is doing to ask for permission from the child. If you are at a park and you see the kids right in front of the parents, and the kids are doing hula hoops and they're wearing bright colors, and it's just an obvious photo, just make eye contact with the parents. Go sit by the parents and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm a photo aficionado. Your kids are amazing. Those colors. This would be perfect for an assignment that I'm, in a class." Create some rapport with the parents. Don't be the sneaky, weird little guy or gal that takes photos of children without a reason. I'm always very open about it. I never do it surreptitiously. I'm always very sincere and honest with my intentions.
Okay.
I hope that helped. Any other questions?
That does. I think that answers that question. How much, for instance, in this image, how much are you cropping?
This one, not that. No, actually, this might be full frame. This is a photo that the decisive moment carries the photo. This is not a photo that is my style of shooting, because if it were my style of shooting, I would have been on my knees with a cleaner background. I would have never had that ugly snow in the back. But the fact that she's flipping the scarf like that makes the photo extraordinary. So yeah, I pretty much, I do crop, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you cannot move from position and you have to shoot whatever you get. But for the majority of time, I am pretty accurate to how I shoot and what ends up. But I do make my micro adjustments in the cropping afterwards.
Okay, and are you shooting in color, and then if you post-process in black and white, you?
Yes, you always better off to photograph everything in color, because you can always take away the color, and you can and then you can go back to color, create duplicates. But you're kind of messed up if you shoot in black and white and then you realize, oh, that should have been a beautiful color photo. So that's how I do it. Any other questions there?
One last one. How often do you interact with the subject that you want to photograph?
It depends on the situation. If you recall, when you and I were together during that workshop, did I stop someone and did I make him pose for us? Did we all follow up on someone?
I don't remember.
So I do this. So let's say I'm teaching a class right now at the monuments, and I'm going to show you about angles, perspectives, seeing things differently, and then I'm going to ask you to photograph people. I'm going to show you how to photograph people, and at some point during that class, I am going to find one or two characters that I find really interesting. It could be a girl with a massive yellow afro, or it could be a boy that is dressed like Waldo, or it could be a couple of cowboys. It could be anything. So I usually make their photo while they're aware of it, and then which makes us relate. And then I go right up to them and I show them the photo. I'm like, "You are an amazing subject. You are the coolest thing ever. I'm leading a class. Do you mind if we make some photos of you guys? And I will get these photos to you." 99% of the time, the people are just flattered that you would pay that much attention to them. And they say, "Yeah, of course." And then everybody falls upon it. And so a lot of times I interact with the people. It depends. If I'm in China doing a story about wheat farmers, and there's 50 wheat farmers that are they're putting the grain on the road so the cars run it over. So they separate the wheat from the chaff. I'm photographing a ton of stuff. I am not going to interact with all of them. But if I end up following one of them home because I want to document the whole process, then I will definitely interact with them. So it varies on the situation. Photo on the screen. If you have kids, grandkids, you know how expensive American Girl is. A store is super expensive. So I'm assuming these kids might have anywhere between $400 to $600 worth of stuff in those bags, but you can tell they're tired, and that's what the body language is. So when it comes to paying attention to what people are doing, body language is a big thing. Obviously, I made this photo, and then I immediately went looking for the parent. and I introduced myself and I showed them the photo and they laughed and they asked, can we have the photo? I'm like, of course, of course. I don't have any problem giving my photos away, especially when it's children to the parents. Why wouldn't I? So I don't have a problem with that. And this is part of the Harlem story that I did on the Renaissance of Harlem. It's just a snap, you know, kids that were, I think they were just coming from church, or they were heading to church, but it's, you know, and I was across the street when I made the shot. I think I had my 1.4 on my 70 to 200, but there was no adult to talk to, and I didn't really mean to interact with the kids. They were just, you know, them, each one standing on their own with their own little personality, character, body language. To me, it was an interesting photo. I didn't make it with any purpose other than the fact that, oh, that's a cool photo. By the way, look at the detail of the girl's laces, and then her little socks. One is up and the other one is down. So those are things that sometimes I don't notice them consciously, but I know that subconsciously my mind is going 150 miles an hour just looking at all the possibilities. Body language, there's no more decisive moment than a child in midair, or anybody in midair for that matter. Like this photo, I don't particularly like because the background being so busy, and I'm not a stickler for straight horizons. This is how I shot it, but the photo is so full of energy, so full of life, that all of those mistakes can be forgiven. Just remember what I told you when it comes to what makes a photo a great photo. Decisive moments are king within that hierarchy. Sandy, how long do you want me to keep going? I prepare for about an hour, but because I'm very much aware that you guys are Camera Club, and you probably have a lot of those questions that I've explained. I've taken a little bit longer, so I can either stop now and we can go straight into questions and answers, or I can keep going. What do you want me to do?
I think let's go for another in like 10 minutes, and then we can take some time. And yeah, I'm not done looking at your images, and
Thank you.
I think the others would agree with me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, keep going. I see it in the chat. Keep going.
Okay, so this is one of the things that I love about Cuba. Cuba is the best place in the world that I have been to. I've been to 60 countries, 60. And I always want to go back to Cuba because there's a certain naivete. There's an innocence to the whole culture. People see you with cameras and they smile at you, or they ignore you. They just assume that it's okay. And I do end up interacting a lot with the people that I photograph in Cuba just because I am half Cuban, and it's very easy for me to interact with them. But in this case, I never got to know the mom's names of the kid. To me, this was just an amazing photo that I had to have. So for this one, I was across the street. I saw this. I ran across the street. I climbed on this is the Malecon wall. I climbed on the wall because I knew that I needed that line of people. So I immediately changed the perspective. Had I shot this from my level, what would I have done? I would have been duplicating what anybody walking by would have seen it. And I am better than that. You are better than that. One of my earlier programs to Cuba, this is a private program for 4 people. And we had a blast. And, you know, it's just about observing. You stand still and the world goes by. You know, there's kids running with a bottle of Coke or whatever the local Coca-Cola is, the droplets of water. And again, they are in midair. Trinidad. Trinidad is my favorite place in Cuba to make photos. It's a southern coastal town. And there's something about the light in that place. The light is beautiful. It doesn't feel like it's the same kind of light that hits Havana. And I know it's kind of crazy because the island is so relatively small, but the light in Trinidad is different. And they use horses. They're a lot for transportation, for tourism, and just run errands and that kind of stuff. And they use them on the fields. So it's very common to see little children on horses. The kid on the back, I've seen him grow. And this kid could barely walk, but he could actually handle a horse. On this one day that I was watching him, I think they put the sister there, and he demanded to be put up there. So, you know, she was like, no, you gotta get off. This is my horse. This is an Ecuador program I did out of my company. By the way, this is the first time I want to mention it. It's EMS Photo Adventures. Usually we take people to different places. This was in Cuenca, Ecuador. And this photo is not out of focus. The way I look at focus in photos has to do with eyelashes. what you're seeing in her eyes is tears, because they had just given her a balloon and the balloon flew away. So she was very sad about the whole thing. But again, the lines, the cords, the strings holding the balloons, that is not a mistake. I purposely went looking for that. I changed my angle, because if I show you a child under a bunch of balloons, that is an image that you might have seen before. And I don't want you to see the same thing. I want to show it to you in a different way. So I waited for the wind to bring down the balloons, and I repositioned myself, and I hope for the best, and usually the best does happen. I was in Sharjah, UAE, a couple of years. I had a couple of exhibits and a big photo festival, and then I was teaching street photography. And this is the overflow during midday prayer. And there were people like this everywhere, but there was only one group that had this one kid standing there. And what makes this photo so extraordinary is the spaces in between. By the way, that is going to be the title of my photo book, or actually my writing book. I'm writing a book, my memoirs, but it's going to be called The Spaces in Between, because it's usually when you're not looking for something, you could have gone here, but you went that way, where the better things happen, or, making good decisions versus bad decisions, and that kind of stuff. But anyhow, in photography, is that space that makes a silhouette of the little boy stand out. That's what makes this photo extraordinary. If that kid were touching, his silhouette were touching, the photo wouldn't work. Outside the mosque, this is one of the reasons why I shoot in continuous high mode. This little girl was just being a girl. She was like a little jumping bean all over the place. And I happened to have had a sequence of her jumping. And this one frame, look at her feet. She looks to be levitating. This is the kind of stuff that you either are extremely, extremely lucky, or you're actually shooting in continuous mode and you get this kind of stuff. Funny enough, so today I was going through my archives and I saw this photo, and this new photo coming up, I had never actually paid attention to it until today. Same girl, mid-air, same thing. This kid just would not stay still. She was just running all over the place. The only difference is she's wearing shoes on this one. So, by the time I was making this photo, she was having a picnic with her parents, and I had already made eye contact with them, and I couldn't communicate with them because they spoke Arabic. But, when I'm in parts of the world that I don't speak, I let them know, that I make eye contact with them. I put my hand on my chest and I lower my head. This is pretty much a bow of respect that pretty much anybody around the world can understand. And it just basically means I see you, I respect you, I'm here not to cause you any harm, not to exploit you in any manner. I am actually curious about you. And that's a lot of what I do. I happen to be a very curious person that uses his cameras to find out what's going on around me. It's Panama, kids playing soccer on the street after a rainfall. How can you go wrong with that? So I didn't have to interact with anyone on this one. I didn't want their names. It was just, I knew that the yellow line on the street and the texture on the old buildings would all work together. So I really didn't, this wasn't any specific story other than the fact of that I liked the photo. I was doing a story for the Globe. I might have been in Laos or Cambodia. I don't recall, but this is Stong Trang. That's Cambodia. This is in Cambodia. This is a photo that I never normally would take, because to me, this looks like a poster in one of those calendars that they used to give out from Asian countries. But it was too much not to take, little girl, soaking wet, pink umbrella, red motorcycle, somebody wearing red shorts in the background, blue lines in the background, she's wearing blue. So a lot of times I don't notice, but my photos are balanced when it comes to colors. And this is the kind of stuff that you only get good at by doing it over and over and over again. Last sequence. Okay, I have other sequences, but I'm gonna stop with the umbrellas. So a lot of times when I put photos together, in this case, street photography, it's because I'm chasing a specific theme. It could be bicycles, it could be public displays of affection, or it could be, in this case, umbrellas. So there are two ways of photographing an umbrella. You can photograph at an eye level like everybody else does, or you can shoot from above, straight down, or you can shoot from below, straight up. And in order to get this one, you really have to break your comfort zone. But I usually do this photo, and then people are startled by what I'm doing. Then I give them the biggest dumb smile that I have, and I back away. A smile can take you a long way. This might have been Boston. and this is just a big umbrella, and so much, I like the fact that the shadow of the umbrella was blue, and the shadow of the person in the background. So you have to have that human element. And I think this is a photo that I made with an old iPhone, made with my walk around camera. I don't know what that white line is, but I was up above and I looked down, and everything was perfect. The colors, the shapes, the texture. So how could you not take this photo? Sometimes you get lucky. I don't remember why that sidewalk had a red edge to it, but just as I'm looking from above, here comes somebody with the exact same tone of red. Telling you, you can't plan this kind of stuff. They just happen. This is making lemonade out of lemons. I just finished an assignment in the financial district in Boston, and they call me and they say, hey, we need a photo. We have a hole in page 4 of the metro section. Get us something with weather. That's it. You just gotta slow down, look around. And I noticed how the light was coming from this area, and I noticed the bricks, and it was a stakeout situation. I just got lucky that a big black van parked on the right-hand side. So it created a funnel of dark and dark. And then, so I knew that everybody walking towards me would make an interesting photo. And again, I'm shooting from below, so I know that I'm cleaning the backgrounds. I think this was shot the very same day. This photo takes a bit to understand, but once you get it, it's like, oh, okay, this is somebody dressed in dark colors with a red bag and a dark umbrella against a red sign. So all the colors, again, the colors match. It's not something that I consciously do on purpose, but apparently I keep doing that over and over again. This is in Cuba. This is a random thing. I made this photo because I'm like, what is that guy with a bolero hat and a suit in the heat of Havana walking around like that? So I made the photos, and then I went to find out what was that about. And I realized there was another photographer photographing the scene, and this is something that he had set up, because he apparently, everywhere he goes in the world, he takes his bolero hat and he hires someone and he does this, is what he does. He got really mad at me when I took this photo. I'm like, and you know why I kept the photo? I like the photo, but you know why I kept it? Because of the way he approached me. I am the nicest guy until you're not nice to me. If you ask me nicely, man, I will stop traffic so you can get in. If you put your turning lights, I will stop traffic for you. If you try to ram my car because you want to cut me off, it's very likely we're about to get into an accident. And I am exactly the same when I'm dealing with people. I am super nice. I come in with open heart, open arms, and an open attitude where all I expect is positive. But if you come to me negative, I will step back once and I say, okay, you keep pushing. I'm very likely that I'm going to push back, and I'm going to push back really hard. So that's why that photo exists. Same thing, shot from above. Later on, I found out that in Cuba, they wanted the people to become mindful, aware, and knowledgeable of all their great artists. And they have a ton of great painters and sculptors out there. So they took all this famous paintings from the Museum of Fine Arts of Cuba, and they put them in umbrellas and bathroom curtains. So people can tell you, oh yeah, that's such and such, and the name of the painting is such and such. So it's exactly the right thing to do. One of my favorite photos in Cuba. This photo is here to tell you that when you are with your cameras in hand, you never stop working, even if it starts raining. That's just new tools for you to use and create magnificent compositions. Somebody's walking around with a multicolor umbrella, I will chase them down. So I saw her in yellow, I saw the umbrella, and I kind of backpedaled a couple of times to get this shot. And then after I was looking at the sequence, I realized she was going, the metro in the background had the yellow line, and then the bag that she was wearing actually had colors that were the same. And then I started noticing a little bit of green in the background, and I'm like, okay, there it is. The balance of colors is always there. So I am very much attracted to colors. This photo is here because it's a sequence of umbrella shots, but there's somebody watching this show right now. Her name is MJ Adelman, and she is my business partner on EMS Photo Adventures. And we were shoulder to shoulder when I was making this photo. And her photo is better than this photo of mine. She outshot me on that day. The point is, sometimes I can produce good work all the time, but not every single time. And sometimes you can get lucky and you cannot shoot anybody else. So Don't ever think that you're not good enough. You just got to continue, continue, continue. MJ's pretty good, so I don't feel that bad about it. Same thing, Ireland, metro going by, rainy day. I could have just photographed her, but that, to me, that's plain. I actually waited for people to get in, and I shot in the spaces in between because that adds layers of information, adds complexities to the scene. As a matter of fact, I teach a class called Creating Sophisticated Images. One of the reasons why you want your images to be sophisticated and complex is because you want the viewer to spend more time looking at that photo of yours. Yeah, one of my favorite photos of umbrellas. This is in New York. I noticed a guy coming towards me wearing these shoes. I looked behind me, and all I did is went down to one knee and I waited him out. And I just got lucky that he put that heel down at the right moment. So you have the heel hitting the ground, the Union Jack boot, the guy in the background with the umbrella. And you know, everything tells you this is a very, very wet day in New York, yet look at the name of the store in the background, Super Dry Store. So again, the kind of stuff that a lot of it you would think is luck, and I'm assuming it is luck. But I also think that when you do something over and over and over again, your brain just works differently. I make tons and tons of calculations when I'm making my photos, and I do them like this, and I'm doing like this continuously. It never ever stops. And this is the last photo right here that I'm showing you tonight. And it's whenever you get to shoot snow, it's beautiful because you have the monochromatic things, skin going. So I went out thinking, okay, public garden. I know that if people walk down below from this little bridge walkway area, there might be some footprints. So that's what I was looking for. Of course, I had no idea that someone dressed in dark colors with a pink umbrella will be coming my way. And that's what happens when you go out and shoot. You gotta put yourself out there, otherwise you're never gonna get the shots. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Sandy?
Now,
Sandy, you there?
okay, good. Yes, I'm sorry. I was muted and had to get unmuted. So now, do you have time for questions?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, so if anybody wants to ask a question now, just unmute yourself. Only if you're going to ask a question. All right, thank you. So who's up? Can you stop sharing so I could see the screen? Oh, never mind. I want you to put this up.
Well, guys, I want everybody to take a screenshot of this. So you know how to, so Essdras.com will take you to all my galleries. Instagram, please follow me at Essdras and Suarez. If you're interested in portfolio reviews, that's the link. But if you go to Essdras.com, it's there. That is my contact information if you want to reach out to me directly. And but pretty much if you learn how to spell Essdras and you find Essdras.com, everything else will pop up. By the way, before I forget, one of the things, of course, I've had to reinvent myself now in these times of pandemic. Right now my website is being remade, and Essdras.com will eventually have a print store. Believe it or not, ever since I left the newspapers 6 years ago, I have never sold any work because I haven't put it out there. So my prints have never been sold. So I'm about to start creating in the print store. I'm going to have stuff for sale. I also have long-term mentorship programs that will be up there. And the last thing, I did a webinar of 10 webinars that are sold as a package. I think, Sandy, you came to a couple of them because you caught the tail end of it.
Yes, I did.
They're basically different topics of photography. The way I teach is common sense. I am a true believer that if I give you formulas, you're going to forget. But if you understand something, it becomes part of your knowledge base and you don't forget. It's just like learning how to ride a bicycle. If I show you, you have a tree coming out of that person's head, you have a pole coming out of that person's head, and I tell it to you 3 times, next time you go out shooting, I'm going to be sitting on your shoulder right here. Ooh, Essdras says that I have a tree coming out of that person's head. So that's what I do when I do the portfolio reviews. I ask you to put 40 to 50 photos of yours, and we go through all of them, and I start noticing patterns. And another reason why I am as good as I am is not only have I ruined hundreds of thousands of frames, and I have learned from my mistakes. But throughout my career, I always had more experienced people looking at my work and giving me feedback. You might be an A+ photographer, but if you're a C editor, guess what? You're a B photographer, and nobody knows how good you are. But it takes someone like me who is completely impartial and is not attached to the photos, because we photographers, we tend to fall in love with our work. And we say, that is a good photo. And I will look at it and say, no, that's not a good photo. Unless you can prove to me why you think it's a good photo. I'm not going to tell you a lie. I'll do it in the nicest way, but I'm not going to waste your time. So that's it. Please ask questions. And I hope everybody took a screenshot. I'm going to get rid of this so Sandy can look at whatever she wants to.
Essdras, you also want to mention that we will be traveling in 2021.
That's right. That is MJ Allen right there. So I have a company called EMS Photo Adventures, where I take people to different places. So we had several trips we had to cancel. We had to cancel Cuba, Panama, and India. So hopefully in 2021, we're going to be revisiting, of course, COVID depending, but we're definitely going back because the world is just too big. Who said that? St. Augustine. The world is a book, and those who don't travel have only read one page. I feel like I have a lot of pages left in this book to read. So thank you, MJ. Thank you, MJ. That's also in Essdras.com. There's a link to EMS Photo Adventures. So any questions? By the way, if you guys don't ask me questions, I'm going to think that I didn't do a good job and you got bored and that you don't want to talk to me. So please don't break my heart.
I have a question.
Yay.
Right, my man.
Yeah. I noticed you prefer a lot of softness in your backgrounds. So you're using wide open apertures a lot.
So my telephoto that I walk around with, seldom does it go above 4.5. And my wide angle usually lives in the mid ranges of 8 to 11. Having said that, if I mean to do a cityscape where I want to stack it up, I will go to the higher apertures. But for the majority of time, because all I want is that clean, I don't want it to be any doubt of what is it that I want to show to you. I don't want you to be searching in my photo. What was his visual anchor? Why was it that he took that photo? No. In my photos, you're going to know right away why I took a photo. So the shallow depth of field does that. So yeah, 4.5 is about the average that I shoot when I'm with a telephoto.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next question.
Essdras,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. How often do you go out just on your own and say, well, this week, I'm just going to photograph one particular thing or one particular event and create a series of photos on that one event?
Never. Do you remember that movie Up? It was an animated movie of the old man, wife died, he goes, the balloons. Remember the dog? Then he's like, squirrel. And his attention was gone. That's me. I don't work like that. Unless I am doing an assignment where somebody sent me to photograph something, even within that something, I will go off the tangent. Because to me, the whole world is a canvas waiting to be painted with my camera. So I might have in mind, oh yeah, today I'm gonna go look for something. But I'm easily distracted. I will go and it's mostly because I have learned throughout the years, throughout my experience, that you might have a plan, and that is great, but you also always need to be ready to drop that plan and go with whatever you found, because serendipity is a much better lover than planning structure.
The reason why I asked that question, because you had a series of images with umbrellas. And I was just wondering.
For you guys.
Okay.
That's for you guys, but those are taken from all over the world. It's more likely that I can tell you that if I see an umbrella, I will go chase it anywhere in the world where I might be, because I like umbrellas if they have interest in designs. But for the presentations, just what I want you to see is that you can shoot an array of many things. Never ever limit yourself on what you're shooting because you have a goal in mind. No, why would you do that? After the fact, when you have all of that, then you can separate it in different little piles.
The umbrella that he took in Cuba, which is in Central Fuego, where there's the art person, he took that through the bus window because we were sitting in the bus because it was pouring rain. So he's constantly looking, constantly seeing, and oh. So yeah, he doesn't have a single focus.
It's annoying to be in a bus moving from point A to point B because I'm always looking through the windows and I'm always shooting. Continuously I'm shooting. Having said that, I am extremely good at capturing quick scenes. Like I could do a series of Cuba from a bus. And I have the most amazing moments that sometimes I consciously am not aware that I'm getting. But the reason why I do that is because I am still a working photojournalist. And because I don't go out shooting all the time, I cannot afford not to be tack sharp, not to be on top of my game. So I'm always practicing. That your dexterity and how you react, it is a perishable thing. If you don't practice, it's going to go away.
So I have a question. Besides Henry Cartier-Bresson, who are some photographers that you studied and admired?
So my love of photography basically started with National Geographic, not even knowing. When I was a kid, one of my uncles owned a drugstore, and after school sometimes I go to the drugstore. And once I was done with all the comic books, then I'm like, okay, let me look at the adult. And then by adult, I mean like National Geographic magazine. And so from a very young age, I was influenced without even me knowing National Geographic. So Bob Madden, Alex Webb, David Allen Harvey, Jody Cobb. Oh my God. There's Sam Abel. Ooh, big time. And then from Magnum, Constantine Costamanos. Of course, Jim Natchway, the god of war. There's so many great photographers out there, but I would say one of the ones that is the biggest influence on me is Alex Webb, because Alex Webb was the first photographer that I ever saw that took the chaos of shooting in the middle of the day and he imposed an aesthetic balance and structure. So I've done martial arts for many, many years, and one of the things that you learn is that you cannot fight force with force, because there's very likely the possibility that there's somebody out there who's stronger than you. So instead, you need to, especially as you get older and wiser, you start learning the yielding ways, where you use the whatever energy is coming your way and you redirect it. So when I am out doing street photography, I am not fighting to fight that perfect shot. I am continuously moving and continuously reframing. Keep shooting, keep moving, keep adjusting all the time. And I am trying to apply some structure into that chaos. And the first photographer I ever saw do that was Alex Webb. So I've studied his work quite a bit.
One of the questions, because I'm just going through some of the questions, Essdras, one of them was, do you get a signed photo release from the people you shoot?
It depends. So newspapers and magazines, they live in a strange gray area where allegedly you don't need a release because they're serving a broader good, the public. So for a newspaper, you never need a release. Magazines sometimes will ask you for a release. It depends on what it's going to be used for. But for editorial, you do not. But if I'm in a commercial assignment, yes, you do. Like right now, I'm preparing this thing for Nikon, this promo video that is a video of me working with a mirrorless, and there's going to be photos with the video. And I am so mad because if I have anybody recognize one of those photos, they need a release. You know how hard that is for a person who loves to shoot street photography? So that's killing me. So a lot of when that video finally comes out, you're going to see a lot of beautiful scenes and a lot of silhouettes. I'm not going to be chasing people down for releases. So yeah, so that's what it is. I'd rather not deal with releases. Gary Faulkner, that's a cool name. That's like a writer's name.
Yeah, but he's not a cool guy. No, he is. Are you walking around with a big D5?
Yeah, I do. I actually own two D5s, two D4s, and C7, the mirrorless. So I'm always, look, that little camera, the mirrorless, it's good for 80% of what I might want to do. But when I need to cover something that moves extremely fast, or I need to go to hell for a week, and I know that my cameras are going to suffer, I always will take my titanium body monsters with me.
Okay.
And that's, you know, Essdras, that's what I was trying to say in the introduction. I was just blown away by, you have these two big cameras, each, you know, with a crisscross straps, and the way you maneuvered with your,
No, I'm used to it. Like they don't, I don't feel them anymore. I'm so used to that. I've always told people that I'm so used to having the cameras that if I am with my wife out for dinner, she tells me not to bring the camera. I usually just bring one. It might be in the car or something. If I see something and it's right up close to me, my right hand goes down immediately because that's where my wide angle should be. If I see something afar, my left hand starts looking for the camera, even though they're not there. It's built-in reflex.
yeah.
And he also works out every day, and that's why he's so bloody strong, because I agree with you. When he carries all that heavy weight, I'm like, are you kidding? I went to a mirror. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Esther, what did you call it? It's something like knowing the bubble. So,
Oh, you're talking about the bubble of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
So
talk
the
about
bubble of
that.
perspective is, so when I taught at BU, and when I put the syllabus together, I had to think a lot. And I came up with a couple of theories that I now teach in my workshops. And one of them is the bubble of perspective. So I want you to realize this. Do this exercise, okay? Close your eyes. You just woke up. You sat in bed, put your feet down, and now you open your eyes. And your significant other calls you. You're gonna turn your head and you're gonna put it right smack in the middle of the frame. And then you're looking for your slippers. You're gonna put your head down and you're gonna put the slippers right smack in the middle of the frame. For the rest of the day, all the visual data that you're gonna get is gonna be at eye level and it's gonna be right smack in the middle of the frame. Now, you need to understand that because the moment you take a photo where it's centered and eye level, you're basically boring the living daylights out of the brain because that's how we normally take visual data every single day at all times. Now, if you're aware of that, that is your bubble of perspective. Now, all you need to do is stand outside of yourself, stand outside of your own awareness. And I will tell you this, every single one of you listening to me right now has a favorite wide angle lens, a lens that you have used so much, you're not even aware. But if you close your eyes right now and you try to picture the scene, you probably will be able to see exactly what the lens covers because you're used to it. You're used to using it at a specific length and you use it all the time. Now, the bubble of perspective, it works this way. You take that wide angle lens. If I tell you right now, you take that lens and that camera and you put it 5 feet above you and 3 feet behind you, pointing down towards you. What do you see? What is the camera seeing? You don't need to tell me. You're probably gonna say something, oh, it's gonna be the back of the head. I'm gonna say, no, that's not what I wanna hear. What I wanna hear is the first thing that the camera, that you're gonna notice, the viewer is gonna notice in that photo is the ground because the ground is clear. And then it's gonna maybe notice the wheels of the chair that you're sitting. And then it's gonna notice the sofa on this side. Then it's gonna notice your cat. Then it's gonna notice this. Then it's gonna be the back of your head. Then it's gonna see the glow of the screen. And then it's gonna see the desk. And then it's gonna see the room. You see, what I mean is you already have that information in your mind. That is your bubble of perspective. So knowing that, you can put your camera in places where you cannot go. You might be on a boat and there's a bunch of people shoulder to shoulder with you. Everybody's looking at the beautiful sunset and everybody's photographing it with their cameras and with their phone, and every single one of them is gonna get the same shot. You go ahead, you do that shot because you gotta get it out of your system. But then you have to use your bubble of perspective. You gotta take your photographic device, you gotta stick your hand out there and you tilt it this way. Now you're gonna have a lineup of people beautifully lit that are looking at something. You put that photo of that sunset and all the lineup of photos, you've told a story and you did it in a way that is better than anybody else. Something went on the screen.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, we've got Suku's, Suku, you shared your screen.
It's a good thing Suku didn't have anything going on in her screen.
Exactly.
Hey now.
Suku.
And he wants to uninstall, is that?
Okay, so
He's really getting out of Zoom.
I have about 5 more minutes, and I've got to go pay attention to my wife that came in and didn't
As
say
you
hi.
should. You know, I just want to just thank you so much for such a, you know, inspiring presentation. For me, it is just inspiring. I can't wait to get out there and it's
Thank
my,
you very much. Thank you very much.
yeah.
If I got to leave you with a parting thought is,
Oh,
you need to be able to make great photos in your own backyard. You need to be able to make great photos in your own home. The fact that you go out to the other side of the world, what you consider to be exotic, does not guarantee you're going to make good photos. If you go there and you don't know what you're doing, you're still going to make the same bad photos you did here. And I will give you a perfect example. The average, a lot of people that, because I do so many portfolio reviews, a lot of people sometimes show me photos of homeless people. First of all, I have a problem with those photos because unless you're doing a story about the homeless, unless you were doing voluntary work for a homeless shelter and you're donating your photos, that photo is nothing but exploitative. That's one. Secondly, the reason why you're taking that photo is because that is as foreign as a culture as you can relate to, because you do not live in the streets. So to you, that's equally to somebody living in the plains of Africa. You got to keep those sort of things in mind. But the point is, if you're going to do a story about the homeless, fine, spend time with them. But my point is, we tend to think that because something is exotic, it's a good photo. No, it's not. It's a good photo because you made it a good photo. The subject matter might be interesting, but if you go out there and you do a bad job, that photo is not an exotic subject worthy of taking a look anymore. So my point is, be respectful of people's times. When you show photos to people, realize that the most precious thing that people have is time. And when you show them bad photos, you're wasting their time. They're just being nice because they like you. When they say, oh, that's nice. So be extremely critical of your own work because other people will.
do you still want to give away the portfolio?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to give it. So a lot of you guys sign up for the raffle to win a free portfolio review. So let me go to so I have a list of the people that sign up. Hold on a second. I will tell you how many people signed up. I think it's something like 39. Oh, no, 19 people signed up. Okay, so I have 2 pages. One page has 10 people. The other one has 9 people. So
Okay.
Sandy, I want you to give me a combination of 1 and 2, and then another number from 1 through 10. So it could be 1, 5, 2, 3, whatever.
So
So pick a page first. It's 1
7,
or 2.
7,
But
and
no, hold on. You got to pick a page first. There's only 2 pages.
for 1,
Okay, 1, and
7.
then it's number 7. Okay, so I'm gonna count 7 people down. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the person is Christopher Frison.
Oh, super.
Chris Frison. Yeah.
Is he still on, Chris?
Yeah, I am. All right, great. Thank you.
All right. So Chris, you took that screenshot of all my contact info?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, just send me an email and we'll talk. We'll figure it out and we'll do it when it works your best. But by the way, I actually saw a variety of people. Like I saw a lot of men, a lot of women. That's good. This club is very varied. There are clubs that are not so much. Also, younger people and older people. So that's good. Having said that, I didn't see any of the young people asking questions though. I'm just messing with you guys. So, Sandy, anything else? Anybody? Steve Harvey. That's another cool name.
I was going to add that not all the members are actually in the U.S. right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Have you ever shot in Newfoundland?
No, I'm telling you, the world is so big. I got so much to go take a look at.
Well, if you're ever interested in coming to do a tour of Newfoundland, let me know.
Camelia Ibrahim. Okay, I will remember that. MJ will remember that. She's very good at that too.
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
Camelia Ibrahim.
I didn't get her last name.
It's
I'm
Ibrahim.
funnier than the other guy with that name.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Becca, you're all smiles. Becca K.
IB.
Do you have any questions? No, you're very shy, aren't you? More or less. Okay, that's good.
Earlier.
Okay, so Sandy, that's it. I'm bowing out. Thank you.
Are you in Newfoundland?
Camelia, no.
You live in Newfoundland?
Yes, yes.
Camelia
We'll
does.
contact her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have a cousin that lives there. That's why I asked.
So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Essdras,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Good
Thank
night.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. Bye, Sandy.
Good night, everyone. Great presentation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes.
it. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy, can you undo my video? I don't want to get back on somewhere else or something and not have my video work.
So what do I do?
I don't know, whatever, undo whatever we did to,
We wouldn't affect you.
Yeah.
Each session is different.
when I take it off, it says you cannot start video because host has disabled it. I just would like it to be re-enabled.
Oh,
Ah, there you go. Thank you.
Sandy, it's the same for me. Kay, I can't get it, mine on
Yeah.
either.
It's on now. Thank you.
Each session is separate.
Yeah, but next time well, thank you. It's on now. So
Shouldn't
thank
affect
you.
the next time you're on.
Well, thank you.
Because
It's
it's a
on now.
completely different sign-in.
It was very funny because I wanted to ask a question, but I couldn't see myself, so I couldn't. I didn't know how to talk.
oh, okay. So sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, there was so much ambient noise tonight.
There was, so I didn't mind.
Really? I didn't hear it. I was monitoring, trying to shut off all the microphones.
Did you hear it during the introduction?
Intro. Yeah,
Yeah, you could hear it.
I heard it also.
Okay.
I did too.
Because it was, really disrupting. So anyway,
Sandy, why are some pictures
stop the
available
recording.
and some aren't?
what?